Hi there, and welcome back to Over the Binary. We've taken a break from recording for a little while, but now we are back and better than ever to shine a light on the queer, trans, and gender diverse communities. My name is Grace O'Connor. I'm the Vice President of Gender Wellness of Los Angeles and a licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I am Casey Weitzman, President and Founder of Gender Wellness of Los Angeles. Welcome.
And welcome to Gender Wellness of Los Angeles, LA's premier source for gender affirming mental health care. Our mission is to provide mental health services and resources that enable transgender, gender diverse, and the LGBTQIAA plus community and their families to thrive. We'd like to give Luke S. a very warm welcome back to the podcast. Luke was our very first guest back in June of 2021. We discussed what it was like to be a trans teen in high school and also what it was like during COVID. And if you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go back to our website and check it out. We now find ourselves in another time of transition, politically, socially, as culturally right now in the States, and thought we would bring back Luke for a chat. So welcome, Luke.
Hi, everyone. I guess I'll give a quick intro. So my name's Luke. I use he, they pronouns. I'm currently a student at the University of Arizona studying architecture. And I'm also a board member of Delta Lambda Phi Social Fraternity.
Great. So tell us a little bit more of what you've been up to since graduating high school. What's been your journey? Obviously, some has been college, but can you share more of what it's been like in the last many years?
Yeah, so a lot has happened. Um, I think after that podcast, after COVID, around when we started going back to school, I ended up creating a mentorship program for trans youth in high school, and that sort of evolved over the years. It's still going strong, and now there's also additionally a support group for adults with children who identify as trans or non-binary. And that's also been going amazing. I'm happy to hear it. I actually went back a couple years ago when my sibling graduated and they had their first lavender graduation. So it's all been very, very beautiful in that sense. And since moving to Tucson, Arizona, I started studying architecture, and it's been such a journey. Um, I think that architecture has definitely served as a like creative avenue for me. And then I also ended up joining a fraternity, which is one of those things that's kind of like
Wow.
queer person joining a fraternity. But it is actually a queer fraternity, as I refer to it. Um, and that's been absolutely amazing. I am now, like I said, a board member of the fraternity. And so we do a lot of social service events that just support the queer community as a whole. And that's been really rewarding for me.
That sounds amazing. When we met before, you had mentioned that your family, your parents were initially accepting of your gender identity. How has that relationship evolved and also with your sibling after coming out to them?
Yeah, I think that in the beginning, it was very difficult to convey to my parents what I was going through. And it took some struggle, but eventually they understood. And I think I have seen them grow so much over the last, I don't know how many years it's been since I came out. But I think that especially in our current political climate, I've seen them step up and I've seen them stand by me and ask me for advice on politics and bills that are going through in Congress. And I think that they are, I hate to say this, but I think that they're better people too because I came out. And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my parents' support and for gender affirming care.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So many trans folks think they're a burden and that they're going to be a destructive force in people's lives when they come out. And it's actually the exact opposite, right? We become agents of positive change in people's lives, right? What a profound statement. Your parents are better people now since you having come out. That's powerful.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the current politics, and I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't bring up a little bit of that. Sadly, we're living in a time where gender affirming care, especially for anyone under the age of 19, is under attack, even prohibited in many places. How do you think gender affirming care, when you began it, affected you? Do you think you would have been different had you not received the gender affirming care you did when you did?
So high school is a very challenging time. Uh, that being said, going through a transition in high school makes it a lot harder. And had I not had the people and the resources and the knowledge, I would be in a very different position than I am now. It's hard to imagine a world where I had not had the care that I had because I look at the world now and I walk through it without a second thought sometimes that I am trans. And in high school, it was extremely challenging having to consider that you're trans every single day, having to bind in my case, um, having to explain yourself to people constantly. And now that I'm in the position where I can walk about life and not necessarily have to explain that to people, where they can see me, and also surrounding myself with people that I know are going to support me at the end of the day. Um, I'm so grateful for Casey because she helped me verbalize what I was going through in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, which is a very important thing when you're trying to explain yourself to health professionals or your parents or your friends or your teachers. And also on top of that, the like medical transition that I went through, I was fortunate enough to go on hormones. It took a lot of time, but it ultimately was the right choice for me. And that's not to say that kids that are going through this should just immediately be put on hormones. And I don't think anyone believes that at all. But after years of therapy and sorry, this is so awkward.
You're doing so great.
Oh,
You
good.
really are. It is so awkward, isn't it? Like,
Like the anxiety just hasn't gone away yet.
what do you think would have happened had you not gotten gender affirming care? Do you think you'd be where you are today?
So at the beginning of my transition, I developed a lot of anxiety, and I think my depression really came through during that time. When I started gender affirming care, I finally had someone listen to me and understand what I was going through, and that support really carried me through not just my transition, but also through high school and now onto college, and I have these tools in my tool belt that I can pull out when I need them. And having someone be your advocate is so incredibly important, especially when you don't have the energy to do it for yourself. I lost so much time being consumed in my anxieties through my transition that could have been spent so much better than they were. And ultimately, when I did have gender affirming care, those anxieties started to go away and I started to see myself the way that I wanted to be seen by other people. And I think that the transition that you go through is such a beautiful experience because you get to look back on it and be like, wow, I was going through a really hard time and I came out of it a much better person than I would have been otherwise. And gender affirming care helped me become a better person, I think. I didn't just have to focus on my transition. I could focus on other things like my creative outlets and I think that queer people I don't want this to be an overgeneralization, but I think queer people are so fun and have so much creative energy to give to the world. And so now I've been sort of surrounding myself with queer art and queer voices and queer politics because that's really important right now. But I think queer people, trans people, non-binary people, like we are warriors and we can do anything, like really that we put our minds to. We just need that support. I think everyone needs a little bit of support, but especially when you're going through things like gender identity and trying to figure out who you are, you need people that support you.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I have watched your growth. And I was thinking if you had any flashbacks, because I just remember COVID, anxiety, that was a really rough time in a young person's life. I think you even started college with COVID, if I recall.
No, not in Arizona.
Okay, okay, good.
Yeah.
Regarding therapy, which you mentioned, do you feel like your therapist before me sort of admitted that they didn't have any experience working with a trans person, but they were willing to sort of try? What do you have to say about like the kind of therapist that is so important for the work we do? Do you think someone who doesn't have that kind of experience can do this work?
No. I think it's a great starting place to be like, oh wow, I know someone who's trans. I'd love to learn more about it. And I think that the wealth of knowledge that a gender affirming care therapist has does not come close to someone who's just starting out. Um, because you learn about so many experiences and how to navigate those. And I don't personally think that therapist, had I been able to continue with her, would have actually been able to help me in the ways that I needed to be helped. Whether that's navigating healthcare or navigating life with your parents or your friends. I think that I had so much opportunity after I started gender affirming care, um, that it's awesome. And I think that people should involve themselves with that knowledge or at least tap into it just so they can help in a general sense, but the specific specificity and the strategy that a gender affirming care therapist has does not compare.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Casey and I, that's primarily like 98% of my clientele are trans and non-binary. I think Casey's
Yes.
probably
Mm-hmm.
we see it all the time, and we're constantly exposed to all the resources, the doctors, the electrolysis, the trans affirming gyms that are in the neighborhood. Like it's all we do. So yeah, I think there's real value in that. We're kind of coming to a close here, but I do have like one more question for you. And the last time we met, you gave some great advice to some of our trans teens, like speaking with an adult when you're struggling, seeking help from crisis lines, trans line, teen line, and exploring the fullness of life, even apart from your gender identity. So, what advice would you have for teens coming into their trans identity today in light of all the social and political and cultural machinations going on right now?
Yeah. So I might be rehashing what I had said on the first podcast, but I think it's so important to find your people. And right now, we live in a political world where it is very easy to tell if someone's going to support you or not. And those people are going to give you the best times of your life, and you get to choose who those people are that you tell about your trans identity, that you share your trans identity with, that people that will go through it standing beside you and walking through that transition. With all the politics going on right now, there's so much to worry about, but being able to find your joy, your trans joy is so important. And I think for me, what that meant was finding out what I was really interested in. And like architecture was my path, and I found that out, and I love it. And it's a creative outlet for me as a trans person. And I know not everyone's a creative. Maybe you're into science, maybe you're into math. That can be your space too. You can make anything your space. And I think that there's so much exclusivity as well in spaces that you need to find people that will help you start up an inclusive community if it's not already there. You can create spaces, and I think that's such a cool thing that I've come to find out. If there's not anything there, you can start it. You have so much power in your hands to change the world, and I think that trans people especially, like, we have so much potential to change the world for the better and help the people that come after us. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand with mentorship programs and people going into high school and not having to deal with the same bullshit policies that were there before. Like, it's awesome. And I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by so many wonderful trans and non-binary people right now. They're really just my people. I lean on them when I need to. They're always there for me and they understand me. And that's a really important thing because you can be friends with someone and vent to them, but they might not understand you. And having someone that you don't have to explain yourself to constantly, it really helps.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. And don't do it alone. I mean, to the best of your ability, try not to do it alone. Surround yourself with love, with people who know you and support you, professionals that can understand you and help you and get the resources that you need. You are just the embodiment of creating loving and space for trans folks in the world right now. Luke, you are such an inspiration, I have to say. You really are. Oh my God.
And I would say the same thing. Obviously, we have been in each other's lives for a long time, and it's just nice to see you come out of the darkness and sort of into the light and then want to kind of give back. And that's just terrific. And it's so nice to catch up with you. And even though it's very dark times, you still see the euphoria in your life and in your experience and want to share that with people that need that support, from you in the community. So it's just so nice to meet with you again, and see what's been going on.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you decided to have me back on your podcast. I listened to it just briefly before, and it's kind of insane to look back on and see how much growth there's been. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from y'all.
Yeah. You're thriving, Luke, and we really appreciate you coming and joining us today. It's wonderful catching up, and we really appreciate you continuing to share your story with us. So to our audience members out there, take care, be well. Remember, we are unerasable. That is our motto. You cannot erase trans and non-binary people. We are unerasable. Don't forget to check us out at genwell.org and follow us on our socials at Gender Wellness LA. Thank you for joining us today.